Okay folks, welcome back to the channel. Here we have the regular weekly EURUSD and GBPUSD forex outlooks. So here we go with EURUSD on the weekly time frame. So of course, as established from last week, we have two weekly draws on liquidity, right? Simply because we have a weak structural high. So when we look at this, we understand this high hasn't actually made a new low, it's simply pushed higher. Remember, the weekly low is all the way down here still. So we have a weak high and we have a weak low. So what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, the last two weekly candles to be precise, they have been bullish, right? So if this bullish momentum does continue past this equilibrium line over here, then this is the next draw on liquidity, right? And then of course we have a weekly POI all the way up here. So if bullish prices continue, we have some inducement here, which makes this an extra high probability POI. So this POI is of interest at price 1.151. Again, if the bullish momentum continues over the next weeks and probably months. But of course we have a weak low down here as well, because remember, this low just kissed up to the premium just above the equilibrium, didn't even barely closed above the equilibrium, and since then we've headed down over the last few weeks. So with bearish momentum, if bearish momentum remains in charge this week, then of course this is the next draw. On liquidity, which I expect to be hit, and that's at 1.044. So if bears do continue to win and win, we eventually have a weekly POI down here due to this fair value gap here, which facilitated this change of character. And so this weekly POI is at 0.998, so we're going to be heading lower than 1 essentially, where this POI, this weekly fair value gap is. So now if we go down to the daily time frame, again, the daily time frame, we've had this demand zone break over here, so this daily POI was broken. So if I could quickly get rid of that. Now this is the next overall daily POI of interest, right? The next point of interest on the daily time frame is simply here. And the reason for that is because it's deep in discount. Here we understand we've left a fair value gap over here. So this was a price action leaving an inefficiency or a fair value gap. And so because of that, it's an area of interest, it's a point of interest, right, which we expect price to reach to. So the overall narrative is for price to get down to here. So if I quickly bring your attention to the 4-hour time frame, the 4-hour time frame is what will paint us a better picture. So again, the 4-hour time frame, structurally we are bearish, right? What we've had is we've had two structure breaks where we've had a high up here, create a higher high, then we've had a low, we've had a higher low, and we've had a lower low. And so from here, we understand we have a dealing range that we need to work with, a very specific dealing range. Now, our dealing range consists of this swing high down to this swing low. Again, these are the Fibonacci settings on the screen. Oh, let me point that up. So these are the Fibonacci settings on the screen, and it's available here. It's here, sorry, on the 4-hour time frame. Now, on the 4-hour time frame, although the daily POI over here, which I marked out previously, this is the daily POI. That is the next overall narrative where I think price will get to this daily POI. So I expect price to eventually get down to here. But there's two scenarios. We either continue to melt, or what we see is we see price coming into somewhat of a premium. Again, we have a fair value gap over here before heading lower, and we have a premium zone generally over here. So again, this is our equilibrium. So this is the 50% level. Anything above the 50% level is a premium. So we could indeed see price head up to a H4 POI, or at least a H4 premium, before heading lower. So please understand, we have bullish structure on the daily, bearish structure on the daily, bearish structure on the euro dollar as well on the 4-hour. We could see higher prices up to a 4-hour premium, but eventually the overall target is down to this POI. Okay, so this is my overall outlooks on the euro dollar. If we head over to the pound dollar, it's quite a similar picture price is painting. So again, the weekly time frame is interesting because what we have over here is we had a bullish week last week. Again, we have our two draws on liquidity. We have a weekly fair value gap above us just over here. So this is at price point 1.348, but we also have a weekly draw on liquidity down here as well. So now if we go down to the 4-hour time frame, the daily time frame. The daily time frame, again, is very similar, in fact, identical to the euro dollar. We have two fair value gaps over here, right? So we have just general regions of inefficiencies or fair value gaps over here. And so because of that, eventually, with the bearish momentum we've had since the beginning of March, the overall anticipation is for price to get down to at least this POI over here. So this is at the price point 1.223, right? 1.223 is where I expect price to head to next. Okay, getting down to the 4-hour time frame. The 4-hour time frame again paints the exact same picture as euro dollar, which is the reason I trade these two pairs, because they're highly correlated and they essentially move with the same narrative and the same story. The GBP USD pair tends to be more aggressive. That's the only real difference. It tends to mitigate deeper and have slightly deeper retracements. But other than that, they're very similar and they're highly correlated. And here's why. The euro dollar looks something like this. Remember, we have a POI up here on the euro dollar. Pound dollar happens to have two POIs, right? So we have two very clear sell side inefficiencies, right? We have a fair value gap just over here, and we also have a fair value gap just over here. Notice what makes these fair value gaps and therefore these POIs actual points of interest. Why are we interested in these POIs? So again, what's happened is we've had a break of structure to the downside over here. So this 4-hour low over here, which I'm circling, has been broken. And so since then, what's happened is we've seen price head lower and then accumulate below the old low. So we've seen an accumulation over here, accumulation below the old low. And so from here, even though the overall target is this daily POI down here, this daily POI is a genuine point of interest. We could see price really seek higher, tapping into one of these POIs before potentially heading lower. So this is the overall outlooks for GBP USD, so pound dollar. And again, identical is euro dollar.